Hello, everyone. My name is Garvin, and I talk about mythology on the internet as well as review books. Today, we're continuing our look into the men of House Atreus, the ancestors of Agamemnon and Menelaus, and honestly, screwed up monstrous human beings. Bit of a warning here, we're going to be looking at some dark stuff. There's murder, there's cannibalism, sexual assault, and worse. If this is something that's going to disturb you, it's okay to give this video a skip. Let me just say thank you, and I hope you take care of yourself. For those of you sticking with me, I hope you remember Chrysippus. I told you he was coming back, but he's not going to be here long. He's the heir to Pelops' kingdom, being the eldest son, but his half brothers, Thyestes and Atreus, disagree with that. And they decide the best way to resolve this family disagreement is through murder. Because that's how this family solves things. No debate, no discussion, just murder. Well, they do it, Pelops finds out, and the boys, knowing how their family resolves these issues, run for their lives. Pelops sends them a message: never come home again. Given how they're going to behave from here, I don't blame them. Now, the brothers flee to Mycenae, which is an ancient city about 7 miles north of the modern city of Argos. It's been an abandoned ruin since roughly the Bronze Age collapse, but it was a tourist attraction in Roman times. Now, the boys are made regents by the original king, and he marches off to fight the sons of Heracles, and unsurprisingly, doesn't come back. So Atreus takes the throne. He also marries a Cretan princess named Aerope. Now, she's got a history as well. She was the granddaughter of King Minos, but was caught having an affair with a slave and sentenced to death by drowning. She instead decides to flee into exile in Mycenae, and this is why Agamemnon and Menelaus could expect to be in the will when King Minos finally passed on, just to tie those ends together. However, she soon decided that she preferred Thyestes, and they start an affair. Now, Thyestes didn't just covet his brother's wife, he also coveted his brother's throne, because at this point, who doesn't? So he and Aerope hatch a plot. See, Atreus finds a golden lamb in his herd, and he decides he's going to sacrifice the lamb to Artemis and gives it to Aerope for safekeeping. The lamb gets passed on to Thyestes, and somehow during all of this, Aerope makes Atreus agree that whoever has the lamb should get to be king. And he thinks Aerope still has this lamb, so he says, yeah, sure. Out pops his brother with the lamb, telling Atreus, get off my throne and thanks for keeping my new wife warm. This pisses Atreus off, who goes to the gods for help. Hermes shows up and tells him to get Thyestes to agree to give back the throne if Atreus can make the sun rise in the west and set in the east. Now, Atreus asks, well, how am I going to pull that off? And Hermes tells him, that's the neat part. You're not. Zeus is. Thyestes says, yeah, sure, okay, when he's approached on this, because it's kind of, how are you even going to do that, bro? Come on. But sure enough, that very morning, the sun rises in the west and sets in the east that night. And, well, Thyestes might have been willing to go back on his promise. The good people of the city decide that, given their choice, they're going to side with the dude who can alter the course of the sun. Thank you for asking. And they just chuck Thyestes right off the throne. Now, your average guy seeing the very gods side with his brother and realizing after all the crap he's pulled, he's lucky to be alive, he would stop here. Not Thyestes, though. He's just going to default to the family's traditional problem-solving method. He had raised Atreus's firstborn son, Thyestes, as his own, and decided sending his boy in as an assassin was a good counter to, altering the course of the sun. Surprisingly enough, this fails completely, but it does piss Atreus off even further. His counter is to invite his brother Thyestes to a feast. The main course is a meat pie, made up of Thyestes' other sons. And here we are, back to cannibalism. Wow, this family. Thyestes understandably freaks out and flees Mycenae, and at this point you would think it's time to cut his losses. No, he's not going to cut his losses. He's going to go to an oracle and ask how he can take back the throne. Honestly, at this point, I don't even think it's about the throne, because if he really wants to be a king, why not just go to another city at this point? I think this is about beating out his brother and proving everyone wrong, even the gods. And the oracle tells him to. Oh boy. Um, the oracle tells him he's got to get his own daughter pregnant, and that son will kill his brother. I'm going to be honest. At this point, I would have said, Thrace is nice this time of year. I give up. I'm not doing it. That's too far. Thyestes instead gets a mask, finds his daughter, and gets her pregnant. This is the kind of guy who thinks he's worthy of being a king. Let's all think about that for a bit. Thyestes' daughter is named Pelopeia, and she was a priestess and had just finished a sacrifice to the gods and was washing the blood off her clothes in a river when her father in disguise attacked her and left her. When she found herself pregnant, she gave birth to the kid and left him in the wilds with the sword of her attacker because she couldn't bear the memory. While I'm against child abandonment, I really can't find it in me to condemn her here. I can't. The boy is found by some shepherds, however, and brought to Atreus, who adopts the boy and raises him as his own, naming him Agesthus. For some reason, when the boy comes of age, Atreus sends him off to kill Thyestes with the sword he was found with. Thyestes sees the sword and reveals himself, and I admit I struggle to see how that conversation with. This is the best I can come up with. Wait! That sword! Atreus never told you where that sword came from. My father told me enough. This is the sword that was found with me. Yes, that's my sword, and I am your father. No, that's not true. That's not possible. Search your feelings, young one. You know it to be true. I am your father. Join me, and we will overthrow my brother and rule together as father and son. Wait, you want me to abandon the man who raised me as his own son, despite having no reason to do so, help you murder him, seize the throne, and rule together just because you're my biological father? I mean, yes? Sounds good! I'm in! Hey, what about my mother? Let's talk about that when you're in too deep to back out. I mean, that is a tale for another day. Let us proceed to the coup. Yay! I'm going to commit a brutal betrayal. I'm sure this is a one-time thing and won't be a running theme in my life. Together, father and son murder Atreus and run Atreus' sons, Agamemnon and Menelaus, out of town and settle down to rule the city as father and son. Agamemnon and Menelaus wander about Greece for a bit. Whatever adventures they had aren't spoken of, but I honestly assume they must have had a couple, because by the time Helen becomes of marriageable age, they're able to show up as suitors and be given serious consideration despite being at best landless exiles. So they must have done some stuff, is what I'm saying. This landless exile does not last once they marry Helen and Clytemnestra. Menelaus rustles up the armies of Sparta, marches over to Mycenae, kills Thyestes, and plants his brother on the throne. Interestingly enough, and proving themselves to be the most chill generation of this family so far, they don't kill Agestus. In some versions, they kill Thyestes, in others, they exiled him, but Aegisthus was allowed to hang around. Agamemnon would go on to use the armies of Mycenae and Sparta to make himself sort of an over-king over the Mycenaean Greeks. He would also be the leader of the expedition to Troy to get back Menelaus' stolen wife Helen and the treasury of Sparta. However, he left Aegisthus behind, which is one of many decisions I'm sure he regretted, but we'll get into that in our next video where we finally talk about Clytemnestra. Well, this has been a bit of a journey on the dark side, but I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, why not join the Everwise patrons for as little as $1 a month? You get to vote on upcoming videos and book reviews. There's a poll open right now. Speaking of which, I'd like to give a big thank you to our highest tier patron, Big Steve. Thank you for your support, Steve, and thank you everyone else for watching. I really do appreciate your likes, your comments, and your subscribes, or even just your views. I'll be back next week with Clytemnestra, but until then, stay safe, keep reading.